All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our very first URISA Vanguard Brown Bag event. We organize this event so that people with interest in the geospatial topic have the opportunity to submit questions beforehand and we get to answer them live. Our questions and answers are going to be a little bit briefer than how we usually answer these questions, just so that we can fit in as many questions as we can in this hour that we have together. So feel free to reach out to anyone on this panel if you'd like to explore further the answers that we provide. We're going to get started here with our URISA Vanguard Vice President, Ethan. He's going to give a little background on URISA, and then we're going to go to our panelists that have 29 years of combined experience so that we can introduce ourselves. And we'll then go to the questions and then close out the hour with any audience Q&As on relevant questions. I'd like to encourage anyone that might have a new question that they would like answered in this format to submit it in our survey link that I'll have posted here shortly. All right, Ethan, take it away.
Sweet. Thanks, Olga. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. Just wanted to give a quick introduction into URISA. This is the organization that's letting us host this event, which I think is super cool. If you are unaware of what URISA is, it's a nonprofit association of professionals using GIS. So if you like GIS, you're in the right spot. URISA is all about, delivering educational opportunities and training experiences for, all users of GIS, and invites them to share, their work and lessons learned and research. So exactly what this, brown bag opportunity is, we're really excited to share some of our insights with you and create this cool discussion. But if you're looking to join the GIS community as a part of URISA, you can do that through regional chapters. You can do that through the GIS Certification Institute, get your GISP. You can do that by volunteering through the GIS Corps. Or if you're a young professional, you can also join the Vanguard Cabinet, which all of our panelists are a part of. So there's a lot of opportunities in URISA. Again, we're really, really excited to be presenting here for you today, and look forward to having a great event. So I'm going to go on ahead and pass it back, and we'll meet the rest of the panelists. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Olga, for getting us kicked off. So my name's Becky. I'll start the panelist introduction. So I am a geospatial project manager, account manager, and quality manager at Incotech, which is a 100% woman-owned small business doing GIS, cloud, and enterprise data contracting for the federal government. And my main focus is using GIS for humanitarian support and equitable access to resources on both a national and international level. So super excited to join today and talk about professional development for the GIS folks. And I'm going to pass it off to Juan May to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juan May, and I work at NASA as a science data visualizer. I'm basically a cartographer and science communicator, and I make maps and satellite imagery to bridge the gap between the scientific community and the public. And next is Olga.
Hi, everybody. I'm Olga Tambasides. I'm a GIS Tech 2 with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. I focus on making maps and apps that analyze our local community and see how they're using the mental health resources available. I'll pass it off to Ethan.
Awesome. Thanks, Olga. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Ethan. I'm a GIS specialist with the city of San Luis Obispo. Do a little bit of everything on the local government level. So I create a bunch of data, I manage it, and then I visualize it in some cool ways as well. So I get to work with a bunch of awesome people. It's a cool opportunity. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I'll pass it off to Jacob in the meantime.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacob McDaniel, and I am a GIS analyst here in Houston, working for a private equity firm. I help with the data team, visualizing data, making maps, generating different information all across the board. So happy to be here, and I'll pass it off to Brooke.
Hi, I'm Brooke Hatcher. I'm a geospatial engineer for New Light Technologies, working remotely in Seattle, Washington. My main focus right now is designing web applications for disaster response, as well as architecture for remote sensing pipelines. And currently on the VC, I am the Vice Outreach Chair. So really love working on those opportunities as well.
All right, panelists, thank you guys so much. I'd like to transition to our questions now. First, I want to give a quick shout out to some of our submitters. We have Shelly T, Joe L, Precious and Connor. Thank you guys so much for submitting questions. Also, thank you for all the anonymous submitters and for everyone here that's listening today. We hope this is going to be as fun and helpful for you guys as it is for us. And I know we got a good amount of questions submitted after our March 8th deadline, so we're looking forward to getting to those questions at our next event. All right, so our first question we're going to get started with, how do I get a job after graduating or entering the market for the first time in 10 years? Wame, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, for sure. So for current students, definitely check out your career center at your university. It's such a great opportunity because you pay for that. So you should definitely go. It's so scary, I know, but it is seriously a must. And the career counselors at your university are so helpful and they're so willing to help you map out your career path. And for everybody else, to beef up your resume, you can do volunteer work. For example, GIS, the URISA GIS Corps has these photo mapper disaster events where whenever there's a hurricane or tornado and they need help geotagging locations for photos, that is something that you can volunteer your time for. And it looks wonderful on your resume. The other volunteering thing you could do is humanitarian OpenStreetMap. You can do this on your free time. You can put in as many or as less hours as you would like. And again, this looks wonderful on your resume if you don't have anything besides your degree, which is what I started with 2.5 years ago on this journey. Other advice is you could take Esri courses. There's MOOC classes that are offered throughout the years and also classes on the Esri website that are free that you could access at any time. Another one is internships that we'll talk about later. Another advice is networking, join professional organizations such as URISA or Women in GIS. I highly recommend Women in GIS. I attend something called Communities of Practice, which is a virtual networking event every Wednesday, and it really brought me out of my shell. And it's such an amazing community of women that are so willing to support you in your journey. So give that a try. Two more things. The next one is build a portfolio. You can talk and talk and talk all you want during interviews about what you do, but until you actually show them what you can do, then that really puts you in that role in their mind. And you could build a portfolio website. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to do that. And the last one is to just go for it for job hunting and definitely remember to tailor your resume. Panelists, is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I think the portfolio is the thing that as like a hiring person, I see really makes you stand above and beyond other applicants. So if you're able to compile all of the GIS work that you're really all work that you've done and put that in a cool, professional portfolio, I think that's a great way to stand out.
And I think we can maybe put some examples and links in the chat of actually some portfolios that current and past VC members have put together. Juan May has an absolutely incredible, I'll plug you right now, Juan May. You've got an incredible portfolio of some really, really beautiful cartographic products. So if folks are maybe looking for some inspiration to get started, we can provide that to you guys.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. On to our next question. So advice for people that have not taken the traditional GIS educational path, are there courses or trainings that are recommended? Ethan, do you want to give this one a shot?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was looking at this question. I think it's a fantastic question. From what I was, looking at in terms of, courses or trainings that are recommended, I've got 3 kind of main pathways that you can go to get that experience to enter the GIS field. The first being attend a university or a local community college and get some sort of certification or degree. That obviously requires the most amount of time and energy and money as well. So that may not be feasible for everyone, but I think dedicating that time to getting a degree will, kind of force you in a good way to, enter the industry and really get that experience. But if you don't have that, totally get it. I think the second alternative that I would recommend is use kind of free training resources, Esri MOOCs, other resources that are online. The GIS community, from what I've found in my 5+ years experience in the community, is super open to sharing their work, which I think is really cool. So emulating what other people have done, and trying to replicate that, or kind of tailoring off other projects, I think is really interesting. And that kind of leads into my third point of doing personal projects, tailoring the skill set that you already have outside of GIS and integrating that in with GIS. I think that's a great way to enter the industry, even though you're not in the traditional, GIS path, so to speak. You're able to take that experience that you have and then apply that to GIS. And I think a personal project is a great way to do that. There's a bunch of free data that's online that you can find. So local governments, county governments have a bunch of free data in your region. And then there's also larger data sets as well through NOAA, USGS. And that's just US data sets as well. I'm sure that there's other international data. There's a bunch of GIS data. And if you want to do personal projects, I think that's a great way to stand out. And then you can add that to your portfolio. So kind of going back to what Monmay was talking about. But that's what I've got. Panelists, do you guys have anything else that you want to add to that?
I'd also just say I really like the word that you use is traditional, hone into the unconventional GIS path, and focus on maybe some software and technologies or data that are not traditionally used in a GIS course path, and become an expert in, for example, felt is very popular with some of our work these days, and it's just a new innovative way to look at projects, which we find very refreshing.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. All right, we're going to be on our next question. What skills should I focus on in and out of school, and how up to date do I need to be with the technology? Becky, do you have some advice for this part?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this may be some unconventional advice, so I'll leave the floor open for my other panelists to chime in after my response. But I think when you're going through school and when you're fresh out of school into your first couple positions, I would really prioritize soft skills and focusing on the basics. I think you're going to get a lot of technical knowledge as you go through school and as you're entering the industry. But as we all know, GIS is a very rapidly evolving field. And so technology is going to be changing and evolving very, very rapidly as you come in. So classes that you take on the latest and greatest software freshman and sophomore year of school are not going to be totally obsolete by the time you start, but they're going to have been expanded, maybe have some different functionalities. Obviously, like the move from ArcMap to ArcPro, and I think a lot of us learned on ArcMap and are now having to do the migration. So I think focusing on really good basic foundational skills, solid cartography practices, data management, metadata, scripting, basic tooling functionalities, learning how to problem solve, because then as the technology evolves and advances, you are going to be able to pick it up that much faster if you've set those good foundational practices for yourself from the very beginning. On that kind of thought of problem solving and soft skills, I would say my biggest piece of advice, focusing on how you learn best and learning how you learn best as soon as possible. That way, again, when the technology advances or you have new challenges that come later on in your career, you're going to know how to adapt to it, and you're going to know yourself well enough to kind of chart that path. So I would say, again, a soft skill, it's not a technical, like learn Python, definitely learn Python, but I think that will help you regardless of where you end up in the industry. And then I would say, to kind of close that loop, learn how to stay up to date with technology without having to be an expert in it. Again, because things are going to evolve so quickly, you don't need to be able to do a full deep dive. I mean, unless you're a developer or it's required on a specific project, being able to get by and learn as you go, knowing how you learn best is going to be really, really key to be able to evolve quickly. I use the word evolve a lot in that, but I think learning how to do that is going to be really, really key in this field. And the sooner you can learn how to do that, the better. So if any other panelists have anything they want to add, please feel free.
Yeah, Becky, I just wanted to chime in. I thought your use of soft skills is really important. I was at a Esri YPN event a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and at a panel event there, and they were actually saying that soft skills really should be categorized as essential skills. And I think that's really stuck with me. So whenever I hear soft skills, I'm always trying to tell people that they are really essential skills. I totally echo that statement, that if you can learn that early on and really nail that down, it'll benefit you as far as your career takes you.
I love that. I'm going to start using that, Ethan.
Yeah.
Awesome. Back to you, Olga.
Fantastic. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much. Okay, so our next question. All right, advice for people that are the only GIS person in their department and team and are looking to gain confidence in brainstorming and problem solving. Jacob, do you want to get started with this one?
Yes. So the last two positions I had, that was the exact situation I found myself in. And I will say one of the best things that I did that I could recommend anyone to do this, reach out to others in similar positions. So not only are you going to build that network and build that foundation, but also, like Becky was saying, you're going to evolve. You're going to understand what that role requires and what it takes to get there. So reach out to other people in that position. One other great way to do that is actually doing the mentoring program through URISA. We'll connect you with people. We'll get you to know those in similar positions who have that experience that you may not. Another piece of advice that I did use was talking to an Esri rep. So if you use the ArcGIS platform, talking to your Esri representatives, see what other people in similar positions are doing, seeing what technology they're utilizing to accomplish their missions. And that's a great way to step forward and really understand how the world around you is evolving. And basically, in a GIS position where you might be working with people who may not understand GIS, you're really going to want to kind of be patient. You're going to want to be able to interpret what they're asking for, because they're not going to say it in the language that you understand. They're not going to put things in GIS terms. They're going to put things in terms that they understand. And you need to be able to take that and put it into GIS, because everything related to data, everything related to visualization can be related to GIS. And the biggest thing is you really cannot be afraid to fail. And at the end of the day, you're going to have challenges. You're the only GIS person. It's maybe the first time you're conquering some certain issue. You might fail, and just learn from that failure. Reach out to people when you do. Talk to the people. See how you can improve. And if Olga has any other comments to make on this, she's more than welcome.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, expanding on the great points that he made, I also have the similar experience. I'm the only GIS person in my current role. I was the only GIS person in my last role. So I have a lot of empathy for the submitters of this question. There's a lot of anxiety sometimes being in this position. So I wanted to share one tool, one resource that I use is I love exploring the Esri Map Gallery. They have a lot of fantastic story maps, web apps, a lot of things that you can look at for inspiration or as a starting point, especially if it's something that you haven't done before. You haven't done an experience builder before. You don't know how to put the data together. I love looking at what other people in my community do, even if they're not in my department or even in my company. And so you can also use that as a tool to bring to your team, just as Jacob was saying, sometimes there's a miscommunication with people on the tech side and people who are just looking for a solution for their problem. Having an example of what you can build towards and then work backwards can really help communication. Another place I would suggest looking is Los Angeles County Open Data Portal. Just like Ethan mentioned earlier, a lot of county have open data. I'm familiar with this one, so I know that there's a lot of amazing GIS deliverables with a variety of topics that you can use as your personal starting point, as an endpoint, or as a communication tool with your team. Does anyone else have anything to add on to that?
I can add too, when I first started a job a couple of years ago, and I was kind of the only geospatial professional there, it was super helpful to reach out to friends from college, friends from a current job, or even like old bosses. They're still in your network, and it's nice to just kind of get feedback on an idea or data recommendation. There's also some really great, Slack is a really powerful tool to communicate casually with others in the geospatial field. I will send some links. I forget the titles of the ones I love the most after. And yeah, and blog spaces are great too. I'll send some links as well to that.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. All right, for our next question. Is GIS and GIS internships traditionally remote or in person? Advice for pursuing either one. I know Wame and Brooke have some awesome advice to give for this.
I'll go first. So it depends if it's remote or in person. For example, if you need to do field work, that is in person. And traditionally, GIS roles are done in the office, but since COVID, a lot of people have been working from home. So it just really depends on who is putting out the job description. And for getting internships. For me, I did 3 internships. The first one, the listing I found on LinkedIn. Somebody was like, there's this internship, please apply. So I did. The second one, I found it on Twitter. Same thing. Somebody advertised it. I applied. I messaged the person. They were like, cool, you're the first one that messaged me. Let's go. And the third one was for a local government in California. And how I did that one was I went on Wikipedia and I looked up every single city in California. And then I went to their website and compiled emails for every single GIS department. And then I cold emailed every single one of them. I think I sent out over 90 emails across Thanksgiving break. One got back to me, and that's the one that gave me an internship. So all it takes is one person to say yes. What about the panelists? Where did you guys get your internships?
I got my first GIS internship traditionally through school. I think it was my GPS program, and I was in the field collecting BPM points, which were base water storm with the Trimble. I don't know if people still use those. I feel like it was a kind of a classic internship as well. So of course, it seems like your university or school should be a really great place to have a professor you're maybe more close with to hook you up with the job. I will also say, if I could go back and give Brooke advice, I think I started that internship when I was a senior, and I really wish I just started my freshman year to get those connections and your resume going. I also think the internships may be limited, so I don't think you'd be too picky and choosy with it. And it's usually probably data entry or like something in the field as well, but definitely utilize your school resources. Recently, I just went to the Esri Federal Conference, though, and I was really surprised to actually see college students from the local DC area at the conferences. And that is an amazing place to have internship opportunities because, I mean, my company at New Light was hiring. It's drivable, so it can be remote, but I think Wame said this as well. It's really great to be in person, especially learning new skills and greeting a new community in your area.
Yeah, Brooke, I think that's a great topic. Conferences are a great way to learn, but they're also a great place to get, internships and expand your network to find those internships. So I had my first internship was through a friend of mine that knew I was really into GIS, and she was working for the city and knew that there was a GIS internship, that was opening up within the next couple of weeks. And so she messaged me before that and was like, hey, there's this cool opportunity. I think you'd be a great fit for it. And I never would have found that if I wasn't friends with her. So I think that the network is really big. But yeah, the conference, I didn't even think that that's a great place to go for an internship.
And I also want to add, Wame, you talked about cold emailing, but I just want to say, as a hiring manager now who has hired interns in the past, having somebody reach out to you, even on LinkedIn or via email, I always am impressed by just the go get itness of that person. And I will usually forward it and take longer to review a resume if somebody went out of their way to submit something that way and try to locate somebody. So I think doing that. And then if you're going to go to a conference, I would also say, make sure you do your research on companies that you want to talk to and a little bit about them before you get there, just so that you have shown that you've done your research, you're a little bit more prepared. You can talk to them about actual opportunities that they have going on. Because, it kind of depends. I'm talking as a federal contractor, and I know we have some state and local gov people. So it's probably different whether you come on for a specific project or if it's just more like geospatial practice based, depending on the company, but knowing some key opportunities or current work that that company is doing that you would be interested in or be able to work on is going to set you apart than someone saying, oh, I'm looking for an internship. So.
Awesome, guys. All right, so on to our next question. How long should I stay in my role before applying to more advanced roles? I know we have Becky and Wame.
Yeah,
Becky, you can go first.
I can kick us off. Yeah, sounds good, Wanmei. And I think this will be good because I think Wanmei is a little more technically savvy in GIS than I am, so she'll be good to close this. But I would say, you know, it's been an interesting trajectory. I have kind of moved from very technical roles to more GIS management roles over the past, I'm not going to say how many years I've been working, less than 29, which is our combined amount from the whole group. So I will say, you know, you are never going to feel 100% ready before making a career move. And if you feel 100% ready, it probably means that you waited too long to make a move. You always want to be challenged. You always want to have something that's just kind of out of reach because that's going to push you into the next set of capabilities that you have. And I would say focus as you go through school, as you start your career, really focus on what parts of GIS and this industry and missions that you are interested in and not interested in. I think learning both they're equally important, knowing what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And really try to head in the direction of what you're interested in. Don't just take another role because it's the next logical step or because you've seen somebody else take that route. Really figure out what means a lot to you. Like I'll add a personal example in. At my last job, I was a technical editor and I worked my way up to be a production manager for the USGS 3DEP program doing floodplain models. And I figured out that I really liked production and program management. I really liked working with people. I liked the scheduling. I liked the deliveries. I liked all of that. But I didn't like doing LiDAR, which is fine. Like that's a fine thing to say because there are plenty of people who love doing LiDAR, and having those of us who wanted to do the production management freed up the other people to have time to actually do the editing and create the really cool things that we could deliver. So it would have been easy for me to just stay on that track because I was already in it, but I really evaluated what am I good at? What do I like doing? What do I not like doing? And I made a kind of adjacent step to do something that was very, very different. And I've worked my way up now in a totally different avenue than I would have been if I had stayed with maybe what was the most logical step given where I was at the time. So I would say, don't ever wait until you're 100% ready. That's my first thing to say. It feels scary, but in the long run, you're going to be more challenged and you're going to have a more fulfilling career if you kind of take that jump right before you're ready, and then really evaluate what you want to do before you start applying to those next advanced roles. Don't just take a more advanced role because you think it's going to look great on your resume. Really evaluate if that's what you want to do and it's going to bring you joy in your career and you want to do it in the long run. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful, and hopefully Wanmei has a slightly different take that she can share with you guys.
Thanks, Peggy. I want to answer the first part of the question, which is how long should I stay in my role? You know, regardless if you're going from like a tech to a specialist to an analyst or just going from a tech to a tech. So the best case scenario is you're getting personal growth and you're getting a lot of money for it. That's like the perfect thing. Or if you're getting personal growth, great, stay at the role. If you're getting a lot of money from it, great, stay at the role. But if you put both of those hands down and you're not growing and you're not getting the money that you want, it's time to leave.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good mic
literally was
drop.
thinking like, oh, it's like 1 year, 2 years. I was waiting to hear that, but I really like that answer, Wanmei.
Awesome. Anyone else have something to close out on that? Becky, your story felt really resonant with my first experience in GIS. My first role, I was a GIS planning lead, and they started to try to cross-train me to like a finance side. They started to try to cross-train me with helicopter flight planning. And through those experiences of kind of reaching out and possibly getting a promotion, I realized I wasn't interested in that. And that pushed me to get my master's degree because I felt like I lacked some skills to apply to other things. And now that I'm more on like the geoprocessing and data management side, I feel more complete in my role. So I really resonated with that. And Wame, yours was fabulous. I love that answer too. All right, we're going to go on to our next question. We have, what if I'm interested in GIS but feel unconfident in my coding and programming abilities? Where do you recommend getting these skills? And we got Wame and Brooke. Do you guys want to give this one a go?
Brooke, you want to go first?
Yeah, I will keep this short. I think I answered this to a student the other day, and maybe this isn't targeted to undergrad, but maybe just entry younger geospatial career. I think focus more in your GIS, those skills, focus more on what the topic is that you're interested. So GIS is a tool to help solve problems, create maps. It's a tool to assist other industries. So maybe focus more on what that topic and industry you like or sparks your interest. And when I became more interested in, let me use disaster response for example, when you really want to be able to learn how to automate this model that I created, the need and interest will spark your wanting to find other resources to be able to learn how to use Python or JavaScript or whatever that coding language is. I think basically what I'm saying is like, you don't have to rush into it. It'll come when it's supposed to. I did do a master's program and that really helped me. I know not, and my work paid for it. So I know not everyone has the time or resources to go into your master's, but having a course does help you get off the ground and something you're very interested in applying those lessons from. Mame, what do you think about this?
I think the real question here is, do you like coding?
Yes,
Because
that's what I'm trying to say too.
coding
Yeah.
doesn't work for everybody. I don't like coding. I took a Python class in college. I passed it, but I had a terrible experience and I don't enjoy it at all. And in my roles, I've kind of gotten away with not doing coding at all because there's a whole wide range of other GIS things that you could do in the industry, like cartography, which is what I'm into. So what I'm saying here is, if the coding, mold is not for you, don't try to mold into that. Find out what you like to do.
Yeah.
I've got one other thing to add onto that. I think those are great answers. I think there's also the different levels of, coding, programming experience as well. Where, if you're using ArcPro and you're doing a select by, attribute, that's, coding. You're doing basic SQL. So I think that's like at the very baseline, you're already doing that. But if kind of like what May is saying, if you want that and you're interested in it, then there's definitely opportunities to learn more. But if that's not something that, you want to do, I totally agree with what you were saying, Monmay.
I am team model builder for life. I know that makes me so lame, but I know my limits and I love model builder.
All right. Brooke, did you have any last thoughts on that?
I was just going to say patient and practice. Doesn't happen overnight that you become a coding wizard. And totally, you do not have to know how to code to be successful. I think those are all great tips.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo what everyone says. I'm on my learning Python journey, learning SQL, and this is after I've done master's, after being done with all of my degrees and stuff. And now I'm feeling I'm starting this new journey of learning, but it is something that I find interesting. I've tried some different avenues, And, it's also fun to just be a lifelong learner if that's something that you enjoy being personally. But on to our next question. We're going to have, does URISA have plans to simplify the GISP certification, and does URISA plan on offering GISP prep courses? Ethan, I know you got the answer on this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did a lot of it to preparation work for this question. So there's kind of two elements of the question. The first one, I'm not sure if you're referring to the first, first time certification or the recertification. But to answer it bluntly, I don't think that there's any plans to simplify that. The GISP is one of the premier certifications that you can get in the industry. And so I think that in terms of applying to that, taking the tests, making sure that you're contributing to the community, all of those elements, it's there for a reason to show that, you're at the top of the industry and that you've contributed a lot. So not to my knowledge, but yes, there are prep courses for the test in particular. That's kind of the main thing that people focus on prior to getting their GISP, is studying for that exam. As far as I know, there are a couple events on a monthly basis in the months leading up to each of the the GISP test different phases, or not phases, excuse me, different test dates. So that can be found on URISA's website in the events page as well. So yes, there are GISP prep courses for the test. And I would just go to URISA's website as a whole. There's great resources there, like the mentoring network. If you're looking to contribute to the community and get some points there, either for recertification or for first time certification, it's a great place to go. And I think that answers both parts of the question, and we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our next question. I applied for your mentorship program, which I was given. However, the mentor assigned to me replied just once. What should I do because I really want a mentor in my career path? Becky, I think you'll be the perfect person for this one.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I will say this happens occasionally. The mentoring committee does their absolute best to pair folks with similar interests in similar geographic locations, similar backgrounds, to try to get that connection going. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out. So you are always more than welcome to reapply. Again, we have 4 mentoring groups per year. I think the second one will be coming up soon, Ethan, but we can put links to that in the chat for reapplication, or if anybody's interested in getting started. But I will say, for as many as that don't work out, we have some very, very successful ones. We saw a bunch of pictures from Esri Fred, from GIS Pro last year, of mentors and mentees finally meeting in person for the first time, which was very exciting. So in regards to the URISA mentoring program, I would say apply again, reach out to us, to the VC email if you have any questions or concerns, and we can try to help you facilitate that. I will say that something that has been really successful, I think, for a lot of us is kind of forging your own mentor and mentee relationships from professional relationships that you already have going, from someone that you've met personally, that you have worked with, that you have networked with in your area, maybe in person or maybe it's on LinkedIn. Kind of adding that personal touch has been, I think, really successful for a lot of people. And that way that person will ideally not only be a mentor to you, but also a champion for you, which is, I think, something that I learned early to look for just as much as a mentor. So a mentor is someone that is going to give you advice that you're going to take those nuggets from and apply. But a champion is someone who is actively going to seek out opportunities for you, speak of you highly when you're not in the room, and kind of be an advocate for you in the background as well. So looking for those two things is going to be a lot easier if you've had that personal relationship. I know sometimes it's hard when you're right out of school or when you're still in school to start that networking journey. Start small, reach out to people on LinkedIn. I know Juan May has done an awesome job of scheduling her own coffee chats with different people in the industry that she's just reached out to via social media. to start getting to meet them. So I would say start small, 1 or 2 people that you really want to model yourself after and get some feedback from would be great. And it's daunting. So reach out to one of us on the panel first, and we'll know it's coming, and we'll be more than happy to chat with you about it. So I would say do your best to foster those relationships as much as you can, and then reapply to the URISA mentoring group as well. Hopefully that helped. But anyone else on the panel want to pitch in about mentoring?
No, Becky, I think you covered it really well, and just echoing that all the panelists, I think we're all on LinkedIn, and we're more than happy to connect with you guys and get that process started if you're starting from scratch or not, and you're halfway through, or you're along the process and just want to make some new GIS connections. I'm sure we're happy to connect with you and start a conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. It's always daunting to try to make those connections, especially in a remote setting. So it's brave for you guys to even apply to the mentorship program and keep trying to make those connections. It'll definitely pay off. All right, so our next question. What percent of utility and public infrastructure data is available to the public? So I have a few anecdotes for this. My personal anecdote is that I was on a subcontracted team working for a couple utility companies in California. Before we were able to get on the project, my team and I had to be vetted, and then we had to sign NDAs to ensure that before we access the data, we know that that is private. I also reached out to some peers in my master's program whose projects were connected to other public utility, and they said that their experience paralleled mine. So on that front, I think like the exact data might be pretty private currently, but I know that there's also a lot of analysis happening right now on broadband. So I know Esri has some layers and some maps going on how the broadband rollout will possibly go, where that information and that accessibility is missing. So that might be a really interesting place to start if you just have a general curiosity on public infrastructure and want to make your own maps and build things on the side. Definitely look at what Esri has available, what's in the open data of the counties and stuff. And I know broadband might be a good place to start. All right, so our next question. What are our thoughts on the fact that data is easier to collect and what kind of analysis it leads to? All right, Ethan?
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah, I think that there's two types of data. There's the data that you collect yourself or your team collects. And then there's data that you receive from somebody else. So I think that, you talk about data being easier to collect, and I agree with you in the sense that you're able to create the GIS schema. So you're able to set up the fields and the domains and all of the stuff that's, set up for the type of analysis that you want to, work with, and kind of the end deliverable that you've got in mind. But I also think that, receiving data from other people, while it might take a little bit of effort for you to clean that data up, can also be really valuable. I think data in general is really cool working with. Obviously, everybody in GIS is very familiar with how to work with GIS data and how to visualize that. But I think that, yes, there is this side of collecting data is cool, but data that you receive as well, or that you download from a public institution, or just access through a method where you didn't collect it, you can still definitely do all types of GIS analysis from that. And one tip that I would say is, whenever you get the data, examine it and think about where you want to go with the data and what that end product, that end visualization going to look like. Is that going to be a static PDF map? Are you going to integrate in WebGIS and try to make it interactive and work with a web application? There's a lot of different formats that you can visualize that data with, regardless of if you collect it or not. So I think those are a couple things to consider on the topic of data collection and visualization. But obviously, I'm one of the panelists. If you guys have experiences working with either collecting data or working with otherwise data, that would be great to hear as well.
I think
think it matters what problem you're trying to solve. This could be random, but one thing I love about data collection is crowdsourcing. And I think Wame touched on it earlier as a great way to improve your resume, but there's a really awesome ways to also like give back to disasters, your community. There's a lot of OpenStreetMap projects, validation of data sets. I'm also doing some research on journalism in GIS, and it's a really amazing way to find news and stories as well. Even like a Twitter, Snapchat map helps sometimes. So I'm a big fan of data collection.
Only thing I would add, I love that, Brooke and Ethan. I would say, especially if your data is going to end up being shared, make sure that you're being really responsible about description, about metadata, about detailing everything that you've done, where the source was, any kind of analysis or filtration that you've applied to the data, just so, you know, again, like Brooke was talking about data in journalism, if that is ended up being used for any kind of future analysis or reporting or whatever, there's a very clear detail of where it came from, what's been done to it, and that trail kind of goes back. So just being really kind of ethically responsible for publishing data, I think, is super important.
Data standardization. Yeah, when human error is at greater risk when it's collected on your own and not QC embedded through professionals, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that was echoed. And I think an interesting thing that you can see when you go through those open data, like OSM, I think that's what it was called, where everyone is open source, filling out and digitizing, you can really see that there is sometimes quality and quantity trade-offs given there. And you can pull that into your own personal journey and know that when you are possibly like sourcing data, you can see what will be the human error and how to guide the people who are sourcing the data better, you know? So it's awesome to dabble in every kind of experience and learn from it and bring it with you on your journey.
Yeah, that's a great example. At FEMA, we weren't, even though OSM was this awesome database and at a global scale, which is rare, we were responding to OCONUS areas. We weren't able to use that because of that, the possibility of miscellaneous data. Thanks,
Yeah,
Olga.
Yeah, thank you, Brick. All right, awesome. We are on our last question. All right, so advice for geospatial professionals regarding conferences and setting healthy boundaries in the workspace. Jacob and Brooke, I know you'll kick us off here.
I'll start it off. In regards to really getting into conferences, I'd recommend trying to go to at least one a year if you can convince your work to pay for it, especially if you can convince them to pay for it, really. But also with that, you need to be able to request that and talk to your manager, your boss, whoever's over you about attending that as early as possible. Because the sooner that you bring it up to them, the sooner that they can get it approved, and the more likely they'll actually have the funding to get you there. And kind of in that same vein, whenever you get ready to ask, you might have to sell it to them. You might have to explain to them, hey, I would like to go to this because I believe I'll be able to learn X, Y, Z, and I can bring that back into the office. Or I can build a network and they'll help me build X, Y, Z, and I can bring that back. It's all about understanding that going to a conference is not just a waste of time. You're learning, you're networking, and you're definitely getting so much more out of it than you put in. And as for healthy boundaries and making sure you just set those in the workplace, I think the first place to start is to set those expectations as soon as you can. When you're in the office and other people are asking you to take on tasks that maybe you don't know how to do, be upfront about it. Let them know that, hey, I will attempt to do this, but I don't know. I've never done this before. Or maybe you need to ask them that they need to reach out and try to do something they haven't done before. Because change is always happening, especially in GIS, and trying to encourage people through that change can be a difficult process. But stay encouraging, be helpful, and definitely be patient in times. Brooke, do you have anything else to add?
Healthy boundaries. I love healthy boundaries. And then I'm thinking of two scenarios. So I still work fully. There's a remote scenario, and then there's in the office. I think most people these days are a combination of both. The first thing that comes up to my mind is communication. That sounds simple. I've actually done a Udemy course in communication, or even just like being a leader. Extremely helpful and has changed my work career a lot, as well as therapy. But as another thing is to make sure that so there's different types of communication, always like voice, video as much as possible, but if you are just a phone call, but so much is lost in just text. And geospatial conferences, my advice on that is the way I attend. Luckily, my company is very supportive of using those as opportunities to market NLT in the work we do. So if there's a conference, I'll usually try to pick one that I really want to go to for the year. And I create that around a project or an idea I have and use that as an opportunity to do some research or submit a paper and then submit that abstract to be able to present it. And with that, my company usually is sees that as an opportunity to market NLT as well. And it's worth supporting and that flow, not only worth supporting marketing the work we're doing, but also my interest and my creative aspirations, as well as that networking piece and creating new clients. Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Did anyone else want to close out on that, or we'll transition to our next part?
Yeah, I think it transitions well, Olga.
Yeah,
If you
that's a
guys
good
are interested
transition.
in joining a conference, GIS Pro, hosted by URISA, is a great place to start. There's a bunch of people all throughout the US and international as well. And another element that I don't think was touched on is, presenting skills is definitely a thing that I find really valuable in the industry. Your ability to communicate GIS information, what work you do with other people. And this is a great way if you're thinking about going to a conference. This is a fantastic one. And if you want to present with that, the presentations are open right now. So obviously the GIS Pro event, like Jacob was saying, it's out in October, but we're collecting presentation proposals for the next couple weeks. So if you guys have an interesting topic, something that you want to discuss, if you want to, do a panel event like this is a great opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door through a great organization like URISA. And just one last thing before we open it up for some other questions or general discussion. If you guys are interested in going through URISA, we have Connect is the new platform for GIS folks to message through if you're a part of URISA. It's a great community location to ask questions. Obviously, the brown bag event has been really, really awesome to answer some of those questions. But if you want to open it up to the whole URISA board and members of URISA, that's a great place to go. So I think I'm going to stop sharing now. That's the end of the presentation. Olga, we'll take it away with some other questions or general comments.
General
Sweet.
comments and questions. We have our last 5 minutes here. Feel free, audience, if you want to submit questions in the Q&A or in the group chat. I also linked a little bit up in the chat the next brown bag event. We would love for you guys to start submitting questions, and then the survey underneath it, how we can improve. What did you like about it? And you can also drop your email so we can let you know as soon as we lock down our summer date. And while we wait for any possible questions, I'll also reach out to the panel for any closing thoughts, anything you want to leave our fantastic audience or future watching our record audience as well.
I'll add something. Olga, thank you for putting all of this together. I want to say, don't be intimidated. Take baby steps in your career. Don't compare yourself to other people who may seem super successful or like they have it all together. Everybody has gone through challenges we're all willing to talk about. Again, we talked about networking and reaching out to folks. If you're going through any challenges, reach out to the community, create that support yourself. We're more than happy to talk. The VC is more than happy to talk, but don't compare yourself. You guys are doing great. The fact that you even showed up for some professional development late on a Wednesday shows that. So keep doing your great work. Believe in yourselves and you guys will be great.
That was great, Becky.
My advice is if you would like to connect with us on LinkedIn, please do so, but please leave a message. So something as simple as, hey, Wanmei, I attended the VC Brown Bag on this day. I would love to talk to you about blank. So that way I know who you actually are. Otherwise, it would just be ignored.
I don't know if I'll ignore it, but I'll definitely be more receptive to, starting that conversation if the person puts a message. So yeah, I'd echo that as well.
All right, looks we got one question that came in so far. Should one meet all the skill requirements for a job opening before applying? This is a great question.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think we'll have a uniform answer if anyone would like to take up the mantle.
So there's one thing that this requirements are having the skills to get you the interview. But if you practice, I think there's like some tutorials on how to practice an interview when you don't have the appropriate skills, but saying that you're learning or you're interested, but definitely being honest. I can tell when someone's lying when we interview them. It's really just about character when it comes down to that question.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Becky.
No, go ahead, Olga. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a great way to transform those questions that they might ask that you don't have the requirement for is touch on like what your knowledge is of that, what path you've been going on to try to learn that skill, and how you're excited to apply it, because it shows that soft skill that we were talking about earlier, that you don't shut down when you're unaware of something. You don't shut down or you just have a negative answer when you're confronted with something possibly uncomfortable. If you can reroute that conversation in a positive spin, that's a boost in a different skill that you might not have with the one at hand.
I would say the ability to learn quickly is a very undervalued skill. So I definitely have applied to positions where I don't fulfill every single requirement. I definitely hit like kind of the core, like I've worked with ArcPro or I understand, spatial analysis, those kind of key basics. But beyond that, if there's, one specific software that I haven't used or an element of GIS that I'm not as familiar in, I definitely say that. I'm honest, like some of the other panelists were mentioning, but I also indicate, hey, I've got the ability to learn this in a really short time frame, and I might not know it right now, but I'm, going to do everything in my power to learn that as fast as I can. I think that's a really, really strong skill to have, especially as, a young professional. That is something that we're all able to bring to the table. We've got the energy and the, capacity to learn. And so that's a really, really valuable skill, in my opinion.
I think a question that I love asking, and I started asking after I was asked this in an interview, is there anything that you're nervous that I'm not asking about right now? Because that shows awareness of, maybe you don't have a good grasp or concept on all the different skills that are being talked about. But if you say that, that shows that if you got this job and you came into this position, that you would be aware enough to start asking about, maybe, is there anything that I don't know that I should be researching right now? So I love that question, and I hope other folks can use it in the future.
Fantastic. All right. We're on our last minute. I think we'll just say our thank yous and our goodbyes. I really appreciate you guys making it. I know it might be pretty late for some of you guys. I'm in California, so I'm like, oh, 4 o'clock, not a big deal. But I know this might have been a struggle for other people. So we really appreciate your audience, your questions. We hope that this kicks off a relationship between us and you. Reach out to us, investigate more about URISA, about Vanguard, and our future webinars. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.